Chapter 14. Too late to turn back now without showing unacceptable weakness. No choice but to go forward and count on a divided, faction-riven crew and what Lakova called the weak force of loyalty. The Explorer was a new ship whose design reflected lessons learned in previous encounters with alien craft. Jiklet and her people had been at work on her for 5 years. The basic materials had been drawn from asteroids and from occasional planetfalls. Jiklet had something of an empire now, a large yet cramped complex of shops, foundries, fuelers, hangars, and repair cradles. Ugly crystal and metal structures formed a clunky, asymmetrical ring around the ship, below the fighter stations and above the engines. Jiklet handled the engines, the weapons and the small craft. If there was anyone with more power than the commander, it was Hetek Jiklet. But in her at least, loyalty was not a weak force. I had toured the Explorer in its various stages of construction and presided at a ceremony of launching. I was familiar with the ship, but it had rested, unused, in its cradle for the last year. Jiklet was practically vibrating with anticipation. Hetek, I hate to call on you at such short notice. You know, you're welcome to send one of your subs along if you're otherwise occupied. A joke, of course. No power in the galaxy could have kept her from flying the Explorer's first mission. I think I can make the time, Jiklet said dryly. May I ask the mission? That watery moon down there. We want to take a look below the surface without using active sensors. The Explorer will handle it, she said confidently. It was a pretty craft, a nice melding of Ketran sensibilities and alien pragmatism. A crate, but largely transparent, with flat grise panels buttressed by force fields. She was not Z-space capable, designed for O&A, orbit and atmosphere. There were swooped wings and massive ion propulsion engines at the back. She was fast, versatile, and heavily armed with our own improved version of the Capacin beam weapon, as well as a number of fire-and-forget explosive homers. So many weapons. So much killing power. I put on an approving smile for Jiklet's benefit, but she'd seen my doubts. We've come a long way through a dangerous galaxy, she said. A long way, I agreed. We had lost our world because the Capacins thought we were aggressors when we were not. What was the moral of that story? That we should be prepared for violence at every turn? Right or wrong, that was the lesson we had learned. We would never be unprepared again. And yet, here we were displaying our readiness for mayhem in every curve of our ship. Were we setting ourselves up for another, even more complete annihilation? No time for all that. I needed to clear my mind of possible betrayal and possible wrong impressions. Focus on the mission at hand. Let's see what your toy can do, Jiklet. We went aboard and docked. We were enclosed but able to see stars in every direction but down. A compromise. Just what Menno had in mind for our ace, adaptation. If no planet matched our needs, maybe we should match ourselves to the planet. We had the genetic manipulation techniques to do it in a few generations. We oldsters would live out our lives as pitiful, flightless Ketrans. But our juvies would be born without wings, with sturdier builds, stronger bones, true feet instead of pods, and no docking talons at all. Was Menno right? No. Not while I was commander. The Explorer released its hold on the searcher and Jiklet lit the engines. The G-forces accumulated but the internal force field supported our weight, even kept the blood from pooling in our extremities. We raced for the blue moon and used the thin atmosphere for braking. We had to shed nearly all of our speed before we could safely enter the water. The Explorer skimmed at subsonic speeds, just 10 feet above the glass-smooth sea. Any particular target? Jiklet asked Agela. Ahead 9 miles. That should bring us to an intercept with the phenomenon I observed. We crossed the day-night line and Jiklet killed the last of our speed. The ship sliced the water in a shallow angle. There was an immediate sensation of claustrophobia. One cannot be raised on a floating airborne crystal, Spend decades in a ship surrounded by a billion miles of open space, and then feel entirely calm about being plunged into the enveloping sea. The water closed in all around us, dark, soon nearly opaque. Then, Giclet keyed the lights and I gasped. A school of thousands of brilliant yellow eels, myriad bars of shimmering light, flew past us, around us. Phosphorescence, Lakofa commented. That may be all you saw, Agela, a school of eels. But beautiful eels, I remarked. The yellow swarm passed us by, and now, no longer blinded by them, I saw wonders of light and motion everywhere. A fish nearly the size of the explorer with gaping mouth and feathery fins, all bright with neon reds and blues, a creature that looked like an airfoil trailing a tangle of purple tentacles, a flight of 7 or 8 fish, long, dangerous looking, brightest pink, and below us a forest of very long tentacles, so long they disappeared down out of sight. A blur of movement. The explorer rocked, tilted sharply, and with a deep, groaning sound, stopped. Something has us, Commander. Giclet yelled. She was more concerned than I. It was her ship, after all, and she treasured every square inch of it. All external lights up. Active sensors on. Weapons to full ready. Giclet, we'll give it a jolt of current through the hull if need be. Ready, Commander, Giclet replied. The external lights doubled in brilliance. The water was wonderfully clear, but we were still in planetary night and the lights failed to show the full extent of the tendrils or whatever it was that had us wrapped securely. The eels and fish still swam serenely by. Sensor readouts coming in, Agela said. Live form. Carbon-based. She frowned. What? I asked. The creature that has us appears to be quite large. Unless I'm getting false readings, I show a continuous nervous electrical system extending out to the limits of the sensors. This thing extends beyond the horizon. In every direction. I did a quick mental calculation, the circumference of the moon, distance to horizon. It has to be a sensor glitch, I said. Nothing is that big. We're moving, Lakofa pointed out quite dispassionately. I had already felt the motion. We were being drawn lower. Okay. Shock the hull, I ordered. The lights dimmed as power was diverted into the hull's metallic components. Anything in contact with us would receive a severe jolt. It still has us, Lakofa pointed out unnecessarily. Understood, I said. Beam to minimum power. Wide pattern. I was still calm. I regretted having to take harsher measures. Most likely this live form was subsentient, simply a creature following its instincts. But the ship came first. Fire. The beam fired. The water absorbed most of the energy, particularly at this setting, but the creature would still feel searing, intense heat. The water steamed and boiled around us. Ceasefire. Report. It still has us, Lakofa said. A creature this large may not even have pain receptors in an area this small. It may not feel us. I nodded. We'll have to cut our way out. Beam to tight focus. Mid-power. Giclet, give us a sweep below the hull. We'll slice the tentacles off. As soon as we're free you'd better take us back to atmosphere. Understood. The beam fired, a lance of light inscribing a brilliant circle beneath us. The explorer shuddered as the tentacles fell away. The ship began to rise. Something close. Agela yelled. Commander. Giclet cried. The monster slammed us head-on. I was knocked off my dock. My talons were wrenched and bleeding. Agela and Giclet were still docked, but Lakofa was down, out cold. Huge. A flash of monstrous mouth, wide enough to swallow the ship in a single bite. Beam to maximum. Fire. The vast mouth was lit red. An explosion racked the fish, its insides, superheated, had blown apart, ripping it open. Wham! Wham! I staggered up. My face was wet with my own blood now. Wham! Lights. Blinded. Trying to think, trying to form the order. Missiles. Fire. No answer. Wham! Hammer blows, one after another. The force field maintained hull integrity, but we were bugs inside a bin pod being slammed again and again. Lights gone. No sound. Silence. I lay broken and battered. Head swirling. Water rushing in. How? The fields should have. Something touching me. My face. Touching me, wrapping itself around me and